Hello, and welcome back to Pacific Drive. So, we're at the end. Here we go. We will no longer be shackled to the car. Not that we're going to get rid of it anyway, but or maybe we are, who knows. Is it possible that in the end they kill the car? Right, let's get up here and see what happens then. I'm curious though as to whether there'll be like an extra area after this, but we'll see.
It's opening. Godspeed, driver.
Here we go then. Yeah. Like we're gonna be another area. One final one. For the finish. Let's see what's through. Well, the car's not here anymore.
Abby! Did it work?
What's the energy output? Damn it, Alan, I'm fine. Light nearly blinded me. Can you read it?
Yeah, let me see. 500 kilojoules? Abby, what is this?
The future. I call it limb waves.
Don't worry. Oh, my legs hurt.
Coffee delivery.
Alan, gosh. Is it that time already?
So, about leaving on. I was thinking, how about by Christmas?
Yes, maybe. I just need to solve this instability issue. I loathe to think about leaving the Olympic Peninsula like this.
There's always more to do.
I know. I'm sorry.
And I love you for it. I'm just wondering if you'll really be able to walk away from all this. It's okay if you can't.
You abandoned the world to work here beside me. Fair is fair.
Tech is a world-changing discovery. Your world-changing discovery. Fairness isn't even a consideration.
We agreed to have children, and I'm not having them in this hellhole.
Good, because I'd love to have 8.
Then I hope you're ready to carry at least half of those yourself.
I love you.
I love you.
Right. Well, it looks like we're walking through. Oh, can I sprint? It was probably expecting me to be sprinting through here, wasn't it? Because that ended way earlier than I got to the end. Don't worry, my legs are already broken. Now the bones in them are shattered, but it's fine.
Wait, why aren't you packed?
I ain't going.
The evacuation orders can
Go to hell. We leave and we never see the inside of these walls again. All the things we've been investigating. The ripple, the echoes from the swamp, they'll all fade away. I'm gonna stay and chase down these stories. Wherever they take me.
Tobias,
Stay here. With me.
Right. Oh yeah, we need to sprint as well. Here we go. Get ready. There go the rest of my bones.
You here to quote?
I'm here to deliver the committee's decision. You have been found guilty of doctoring experimental data. This action is in clear violation of Artist scientific integrity. Judgment has been rendered. You may stay and work, but your clearance will be lowered to level 3.
So I'm to be a glorified flash cleaner.
Take it as a win. You could have been court-martialed instead.
Yeah. I'm sure you would have liked that much better.
What I like has no bearing on this decision. See you on Monday, Dr. Cook.
Yep, that's when Hoppy sold him down the river.
Driver, do you read me?
Driver, you passed through some sort of opening. We managed to hold it steady, but the energy expulsion is growing. We don't have much longer.
If you can hear this, you need to get back now.
Hey, look! The gang's back together!
Tobias?
I never told you how grateful I was that you stayed behind in the zone. With me. These years, best of my life. Foraging for mushrooms, slogging through swamplands, combing through hours and hours of terrible field recordings. Not a single moment wasted. Thank you. For everything.
It was all you. You made me feel capable. That anything was possible. That I wasn't some second-rate scientist. All my happiness was thanks to you. And I'm afraid of how I'll survive without you.
I'm not. You got this. You always have. Hey, Oppie. Alan sends his regards. And he wants to know why you haven't taken his advice yet. Driver, is that a gumbaroo on your dash? Oh, I'll be damned.
Hey,
Bye. Until next time.
hey,
Tobias?
noticed that we've got the bobblehead on.
Driver, if you could hear this, we can't keep the well stable for much longer. Wherever you are, come back.
Let's see what we have through here. Oh. Oh. Here we go then. Open road.
Just a little longer. Hold steady,
I
Francis.
take it we're meant to go through these.
.001 deviation, you get me?
Or not.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Keep tapping the power steering tyre thing in the hopes that it does something useful. Yeah, these, I've decided, I've used them a few times now, these tyres are terrible. Sliding everywhere, sliding absolutely everywhere.
The airfield is smaller than
Here we go.
Francis, hold
Good. Guess we're going backwards. Just back through it. There we go. Wow, yeah, I was spinning all the way through that. What are we on? We're back.
You made it back, driver. All in one piece, it looks like.
And no sign of the Remnant's energy signature anywhere in that car. You're free.
But the car's maintained its link to you. Fascinating.
We'll never know how far the Remnant's obsessions wormed into your head, but you should be safe from it getting any worse. In theory.
Oppie, I'm sorry. You didn't get to talk to Alan again.
We managed to pull off the near impossible. And the first thing you do is apologize?
Sorry. I mean,
Don't worry, it was Tobias's fault. He hogged the frequency all for himself yet again.
you heard him too.
I did. That means I didn't imagine that last conversation with Alan. And you know what else?
What?
That your theory was right. And Tobias called it. All that bluster, and he ended up showing us scientists a thing or two. Those moments we heard, they were all from the past. Being inside that well somehow allowed the remnant to access those imprints and replay them. But Tobias's voice wasn't from the past, it was from somewhere else entirely.
But where? And how?
No clue. Do me a favor. Once you figure it out, don't bother telling me. I'm leaving the zone.
I'm sorry, what?
Alan came to tell me goodbye, and that I was forgiven 37 years ago. I didn't listen. So now, finally, I'm going to take his advice. I should have left the zone a long time ago.
But if we solve this, maybe there's a way to speak to him again.
I heard what I needed to hear. It only took me 37 years to listen. Anyway, all that sounds like a young scientist game. It's not for me anymore. Francis, you decide what to do from here. You can carry the torch and continue the research, or get out of this cursed place and find your own way. It's your decision. And driver, you're free now. You can do what you want from here. But if you'll allow an old woman one last hope, stay here with Francis. There's so many more stories for the zone to tell. And the both of you are young enough to listen. My ears are bad. And I refuse to hear them. I've removed all access restrictions to my systems, Francis. The helm is yours.
Wait, I don't know if I can do this alone.
You're not alone. You've got clear eyes, ears open to the impossible, and the driver. Dr. Cook. Driver. It's been a pleasure. This is Dr. Ophelia Turner. Signing off.
Abby? Abby! Really? Well, driver, if you don't mind sticking around with me, Abby was right. There's still so much of the zone that we still don't know about. But with your help, we can tell those stories. I'm no Abby, but I'll do the best I can. You're no longer bound to the car. But it's stayed with you, and will continue to protect you as you travel the zone. Go on, then. As long as you're willing to drive, I'm along for the ride.
And there we have it. The debut game, I believe it is, from Ironwood. So, it's pretty good. I'll definitely say that much. It is an extremely good game, especially for a debut. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it's like absolutely utterly amazing. Oh, it's the best thing ever, game of the year. No, it's not gonna move mountains or anything. I think that it's probably already been beaten for game of the year by Helldivers. But all that said, playing through it, I mean, and it does have problems, but the thing that I will say is absolutely amazing. Like the thing they set out to do, which was to create this, it's a road trip, it's you and the car, and you're putting it back together and maintaining it. That is absolutely nailed down to the floor and cemented in. It's not moving. They have done an excellent job at that, which is if that's your primary goal, then they achieved it. And it's not even in question. Story and narrative wise, not bad. Thought, to say it's just disembodied voices in you, yeah, not bad. But obviously it's not really about the whole story and finding out about everything, and that's just kind of something to do as you progress, something to just give you a direction, like give you a heading. The game's really about the journey. Obviously, I mean, it is literally a game about a car journey, so I would go as far as say, though, if I were to say anything weren't great about it, it would be the sort of mission moments. It's the actual gameplay in the missions isn't particularly brilliant. Like, the way I would probably phrase all this is it feels like it's almost a proof of concept for a grander idea that they may have had that I'd like to see fulfilled, whatever that might be. Because yeah, the vehicle customization and the changed out of all the parts, the upgrade systems and things, as I've said, is absolutely, without question, top notch. You know, some of the best vehicle customization I've ever seen in a game. I can't think of one where there's more of it, you know. It's kind of, it feels like the end result, like the logical conclusion, where you see sometimes on Steam and that you can get these PC games where it's like Mechanic Simulator or something, you know. I got one a while back that were like Tank Mechanic Simulator, and you can kind of you go out and you find parts and put put whatever back together depending on the game, you know, tanks or trucks or I don't know. I think there's one where you build PCs in a shop and things like that. It feels like one of those games, but they've actually tried to give it some sort of gameplay and actual missions around it to make it feel more like a game. And that is kind of a vibe that you get. You know, it's very fun tinkering and messing around with the car in between missions, but there are actual missions. You've got an actual goal and objective, so it feels like the logical conclusion of those games where it's like just simulating being a mechanic essentially. You know, it's like, oh, now you can simulate being a mechanic while you actually have stuff to do. You know, things to tick off on a list or whatever. Anyway, if I were to say anything though, it would be that those missions that you go out to do need to be better. This isn't bad, and there's not many games that are in this sort of niche. I can only honestly think of like Stalker. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like Stalker and I guess kinda sort of the Metro series, and maybe Hunt Showdown to a certain extent, where it's the idea is you're going into like a hostile zone full of magical, mystical, sci-fi and paranormal-esque beings that aren't necessarily out to get you, but it's just dangerous to be around them, you know. Like it's not the fault of the obstacles you face that they end up wrecking your car, they're just kind of in the way. And that's kind of the whole point, isn't it? It's that it's a dangerous zone and you're heading in. But yeah. And that's the sort of vibe that I'm getting with this. That said, like I said, so there's not much in that genre. Again, very few I can think of. So this isn't bad, but I would like to see them, to make the missions more interesting, I would honestly change up the setting. You know, it could be post-apocalyptic and you're building this Mad Max-esque car. Or it could be in the future and you're building together a spaceship. Or I think it'd be really good if you were building up like a mech robot or something and putting guns on the side and stuff. Because, I mean, I know for a fact that any of those would work. I mean, I know that the Mad Max game, the last one they did, I think it might be the only one they did as well, sold pretty well. Mech Warrior's always done pretty well. But, you know, having like an actual game where you create and customize and build a vehicle and then go out on missions in it, like, I think is like this could be like a new subgenre type thing that could be up and coming. This, it's got the potentially they've struck gold with this, but they need to work on those missions. Like again, as good as it is with the whole Stalker-esque style thing, it doesn't lead to really cool, dynamic, engaging gameplay. This is more one that you would watch while, like you would probably watch gameplay of this, and I imagine most of you will have if you're watching this, probably while you're playing on a game and this is kind of on the side. Or if not that, you're playing through it and you've got a podcast on. You know, if I weren't talking over it and commentating and that, I would probably have a podcast on while we're playing this. It's that kind of game. I mean, they even let you put a radio in the car because they know that you're going to kind of probably want to do something like that. And it is that kind of game. It does lend itself to that quite a bit, but I think it needs more engaging missions. You know, if I were out there and the panels were getting blown off by enemy gunfire as I'm slaloming around a desert, you know, fighting over the last the last can of beans on the planet in the apocalypse, you know, it might be a bit more interesting. Or if I were moving a mech through a building and blowing up tanks, that could be quite cool. I think, though, again, just to complement the job that they've done here, I mean, we can do a bit of tinkering now while we're just finishing up. But yeah, genuinely, like, I can go over here, and in fact, where was... There it is. It's fragile and cracked, this door. We don't want it anymore. So we go over. What I really like is the tactile feeling to this, you know. I have to actually go over, pull the door off, take it to the shredder and that. I'm not just in a menu here where it comes up car customization and I go to the door slot and it's just like a bloody inventory system. No. I actually have to go out of my way to go and move the parts around and do all of this. Where's a door? I'm sure I keep a spare door. We've got a panel. We've got 2 panels. Damn. I think I must have used the last door that I had. Is the one outside? No. The steel ones. But you start to get my point. Like, they've done a really good job of that. And they've thought of a lot of stuff. Like, they know that they can't just leave you with nothing. So they've got this friendly dumpster system. This is a really good idea. Like, a lot of things around the base well thought out. It's a friendly dumpster. If you're in dire straits, will throw out better items and more of them. Whereas, how did plasma get under there? Whereas if you're not doing too bad, it won't offer you that stuff. It'll just throw the usual rubbish on the floor. But, you know, having to come over here and actually fire up this scrapper, which basically looks like a big cross between a saw blade and an angle grinder. But firing this up and taking all the bits off and opening the back and grabbing all the stuff, you know, it's absolutely fantastic. It really genuinely is. And again, I feel like this could translate onto a lot of other games. They could make a whole series of games like this, but with different types of vehicles and different settings. Yeah, they really could, and I would love to see it. You know, maybe you're repairing a starfighter on the hangar bay of a spaceship, and you're going out on missions and then upgrading it in between and doing all that sort of stuff. You know, going in on bombing runs on the enemy spaceship and coming back with, you know, half your wings missing and so on. There's a lot you could do with this, and it's really cool. I'd love to see it. But that said, again, the faults, other than just the missions, just getting to the actual customization of that. Though the actual mechanics of this aren't bad, you know, peeling everything off, sticking it back on with new parts and all this stuff, there are a few things that I would kind of just point out. Like, for example, I wouldn't mind, off the top of my head, I think a few of the issues that I have with the actual customization out of the car, like, I feel certain items And it's going to happen that it's not all perfectly balanced. It's difficult to balance all these things. Like, certain items you get way later than you probably should. Like, I feel like the anchor energy converter probably shouldn't have been a super duper late game item. I feel like you could have probably got that in the second zone rather than basically right at the end. The auto tracking spotlight, I think you get that pretty much right when you would probably want to start getting it, but it's nowhere near powerful enough. Like, it's got a limited range is the problem, so it doesn't really help all that much because it just stops tracking you after a certain point and doesn't extend out anymore. I honestly was expecting it to be basically like a bloody lighthouse on the top of my car, especially with the size of the thing. You do kind of expect that, but it just wasn't. And other problems, like the inventory, for example, like, okay, the paint shelf here only has enough room for a certain amount of paint, and I don't think there's a pneumatic upgrade for that. I don't think I can go back here and turn it into like a pneumatic paint shelf. You know? I can make my other lockers pneumatic ones with infinite amounts of stuff to put in, but not that. So you get problems there. Some of the other stuff. What else was there? And again, like just certain items, like the relightable flare is really bad. It's only got 2,300 durability. It's terrible. The crude flashlight has 6.6. Now the crude flashlight is really good. The biolantern is straight up practically broken with how good it is. But the crude flashlight is excellent. Yeah, this is an absolutely excellent item. You get it a bit later than I would expect. And the relightable flare, it's bad enough that it's nowhere near as good, like the light just doesn't extend out very far. But the fact that it just runs out after you've looted like 2 buildings is unacceptable. It's just absolute garbage as far as items go. So there definitely needs like a balancing patch on some of the stuff. Some things as well. I've not been around the final zone loads, but still I've still not seen some of these anomalies, which is a bit ridiculous. But the power grip tires will hurt me in the end of that drive. These are just spinning out. Like, off-road rating is meant to be a B. Keep in mind the off-road tires now, they're AA, but they're better than, say, the summer tires. Not as good as the all-terrain, but only just not as good. However, just that B rating, and they are just skidding everywhere. It's absolutely ridiculous how much they spin out just by turning slightly. I feel like you get the... What else is there? Where is it? The mobile workbench. I think you get that a bit too late in the game, because it requires corrupted energy. Granted, not much. Theoretically, you could get this from an unstable area in the second zone. Mind you, you need those Olympian fragments, and you need a fair amount of them. So it's going to be in the third area. It's probably going to be the first thing you buy when you get to the third area, but I feel like this should be a second zone item. You know, it shouldn't require Olympian fragments. It should probably require, like, some tree candy instead. But not only that as well, but things like the engines, for example. Like, I mean, how much do I need to get this limb-chipped engine? Because they are ridiculously costly to buy. Limb-chipped engine, yeah, I need 40 Olympian fragments and a bunch of limb chips, which require 6 fragments each. You just need all the Olympium. So I get the feeling that a lot of the late game items are there to just grind out once you've gotten everything else. Like a lot of these utility things at the very end, like, I mean, come on, a magnetic bumper, that should have been a first area item, because it's rare that you need to grab things off of the road. Like, the use case scenario for this is very niche. This should not cost that much to make. And I will say as well, another issue that I've got is a lot of the incredibly powerful items are on the top roof only. So they're on like the roof racks, not the side racks, which is fair enough. You know, it's fair enough that they would be on here. But it's assuming that they're similar to this spotlight, right? Because you look at them and it's stuff like shield you from radiation, or things that'll give you what's it? What were there as well? Ones that let you slow down time and things. There's some incredibly powerful items that you can put on the top, as well as just some utility stuff. But the problem is I don't think you get bang for your buck with them. Like, these two are very power hungry. Now, granted, there's not much you're going to spend power on otherwise than just using your top items. Like, what else are you going to use it for? So you might as well have some items on there, even if they're a bit power hungry. But yeah, the light, for example, will straight up, it just chews through your power. I would have thought that if I turned the headlights off and just left that on, it wouldn't use up that much more power, but it does. Like, this is, again, I've already expressed that I think it needs buffing as well, but it's way too power hungry. The resource radar is about right. You know, you only have to use it every so often. It's very useful when you do use it, and it just uses up a little chunk of power. You'll probably want to ping, you know, 3 or 4 times in an area, so you'll probably use like 20 odd energy or so per zone. So it's not bad. That is a perfectly balanced item, I think, the resource radar. This is, and I think that's what it is. I think there just needs to be a balancing pass across a lot of the items. Other issues I would say that I can think of, I think that you need to be able to sometimes, like, I like the idea of just fast travelling along these highways, but the other issue that you get then is, as we've seen, you can only go so far. You still have to do these in-between areas, and it just slows you down. As you get further into the game, honestly, these should just be fast travel points. Making you redo the first area over and over and over again, like, it suffers very heavily from, you know, the trappings of the roguelike genre which it's put itself in, which is basically that you end up going to the, you know, everywhere in the first area feels kind of the same with the second area and the third. Like, the biomes feel very similar, and you feel like you're exploring the same area but with different road layouts in between, because you basically are. They could definitely do with fixing that. I don't know how you do it. I mean, just in future titles, I would say that. Just in future titles, if you're going to only have so many areas, I wouldn't have the player constantly replaying the first 1 or 2 areas every time they're trying to get to the third area. Because the problem then is you're probably just gonna find yourself getting very, very tired and fed up of the game by it making you take extra time just to get to the end destination. You know, you feel like it's holding you back, basically, rather than helping you progress forwards and so on. So there is that issue. Again though, all that aside, and I think that is more or less everything I would comment on it. You know, most of it comes down to, I think certain things could probably do with a balance. You know, look at the balancing of them. I think that some of the items that are basically marked as being end game stuff and stuff that they've almost designed it so you're not going to get them before the end of the game. The problem then though is it's like, okay, it's additional content for you to get through if you beat the game. Like, hey, you can stick around and try to unlock all the items, sure, but once you've got the carrot on the end of the stick, why are you going to hang around playing with the stick? Yeah, it's kind of redundant to have these extra items for the 100% completionist types. I mean, well, maybe there are completionists who really appreciate that and just love any excuse to play more of the game because they love it that much, maybe. But I'm not one of them, so I'm very much just looking at it and I'm like a bit annoyed that I never got to try out the Olympian fragments. Well, the Olympian panels and things. Because that's another thing as well, like just... We've been on armoured panels since pretty much the end of the first area, and have never needed more. And I will say that as well, again, just talking about the mission types again. Because they are very easy, they only get particularly hectic toward the end usually, or if you've made a big mistake. Like, a lot of the times I've failed a mission because I have, I've taken a wrong turn or I've veered off to... I think the main ones were... I was trying to get to... Yeah, I think most of the nasty ones involved me misreading the map a bit, not realising that there were a giant cliff nearby, and then getting stuck and running out of time trying to make the exit. And one time I waited for the... In fact, yeah, I waited for that dropship to fall in, which is a cool idea, but it never has anything good in there that's worth... Like, the few times I've opened it, it's been very mediocre stuff. Like, it's equivalent of opening up a really good truck, like this. But it's nothing to really write home about. And it cost me... Because then I tried to escape and go down a cliffside and just got caught on a tree. And the screen was just like blurred and red, and there were radiation and everything, and I had to teleport the car and stuff, and I think it rolled onto its back or something. And basically I just died there. I think one of the other times that sticks in my memory is I got like run off the road and thrown into like one of those crackling crawlers. That was one. So it's usually I've been run off the, I get thrown off the road, crash, the car gets lodged, and the storms come in. That's usually how you die. But even then, I think I've only gone out like 3 times. And look, we've got 15 runs without an accident. So we must be doing something right. Oh god, that's so bright. All of it said though, like I say, it has been very fun. It's very interesting, very unique game. Really enjoy myself. I would love to see a second game from them where they take it further and go, what kind of cool missions could we do where it involves you being in a vehicle and then build the game together from there, like what cool stuff could you do in a in a game where you build your car up like this? I would immediately go to like post-apocalyptic shooting people and all that sort of stuff. You could do loads of stuff. That's where my mind goes. You might be thinking, oh, a street racing game or something like that, or maybe again something with mechs or spaceships or robots, or I don't know. Could be out. But something where you're tinkering with something. I think there's definitely a market for a game which is focused around that, and just kind of like takes the idea of doing these runs, these missions. I mean, maybe you could keep it in the roguelike genre. Maybe you could have like a whole genre where you basically go and take now you could do a whole series of games where you basically could take a vehicle of some description and you go on roguelike runs. Maybe you face off against a bunch of like AI, NPC fighters and that while you're out there. But it's all doing, yeah, a load of roguelike stuff. Maybe you put like a big car together full of guns and that to fight, I don't know, robots in the future, and you go out on runs, you come back and then use the parts you scavenge off of them to improve the vehicle. Could be all. But I would definitely love to see more. Anyway, that said, thank you very much if you've watched the episode, and even more so if you've watched multiple episodes or even the entire series. It all helps the channel. Do subscribe if you want to see more. By now, I'm kind of judging on what's probably on the way, going from the time of recording. I'm guessing that on the channel at this point, if it's going along what I've planned, there's probably a bunch of Dragon's Dogma already on the channel, because that's what I'm going to be playing straight after this. I've kind of rushed this to the end on the release week for Dragon's Dogma, so that I can get onto that on the weekend. So there'll be that on the channel. I'm hoping to do a bit of a game called Outpost Infinity Siege. It'll be on the channel if I've started doing it. If you like this, you might like that. That involves you building like a giant base of stuff and using it to defend against waves of enemies. So yeah, that might interest you. So more on the channel if you're interested. But for now, thank you very much for watching. And again, this has been Pacific Drive, and I will see you for more next time on the channel if you decide to stick around. I hope you do. And if so, I'll see you then.